Hi, I'm Lisa Eddy, your host of the Sacred Beauty Lifestyle Podcast. I'm so glad that you've made your way here and that I'm now sharing these podcasts here on YouTube. In my 25 years in the beauty industry, I have worked with thousands of women. I have witnessed so many beautiful, powerful, smart, and kind women who are hiding instead of shining. My mission is to empower you to own your true power and beauty inside and out, to be truly confident and shine through your skin. Lord knows the world needs your light. I'm committed to helping you understand the choices that you are making that are working for or against you. I'll also be sharing beauty tips and tools your mother never taught you, and together we will bust urban beauty myths. Make sure to subscribe today to receive episodes right when they are released. For those who prefer listening to the audio podcast, head over to sacredbeautylifestyle.com. That's sacredbeautylifestyle.com, and you can find the platform of your choice. Enjoy. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Sacred Beauty Lifestyle Podcast. I am so excited to share Liza Spiridon with you today. Liza is a global numerology of wealth expert, having studied numerology for over 20 years. For the past 5 years, she has been using numerology to help herself and her clients to catalyze wealth according to their personal numbers and the cycles they are in. Her passion is to decode your numbers to catalyze a wealthy life, offering tools for those who desire sovereignty. Through numerology, her clients have a deeper understanding about themselves as well as others. Numbers are not just in a person's chart, but are in our businesses, our home addresses, street address, and much, much more. Welcome, Lisa. I am super excited to speak with you and to share you with the Sacred Beauty Lifestyle community.
Thank you for having me, Lisa. I am so excited to talk with you about numbers.
I am a number geek too, and I always have been.
Well, I'm not surprised based on your personal numerology blueprint. I was like, it looks like she might have been interested in numbers numerology before she even realized what numerology was. So,
Oh my gosh, I love that you said that. You are so right out the gate. That is absolutely 100%. I would always memorize phone numbers and see sequences in numbers, even as a young girl. And I worked at a bank as a young girl. I don't know. This is just funny that you said that because I think people would probably be fascinated to hear what you just said. You can tell like that, right?
mhm. So I use the numbers as a tool to kind of get a better sense of a person so that they can either better understand themselves and or receive confirmation about what they may have known but forgotten. So, and with that, it really allows the person to create the life that they desire. We all desire feeling good, looking forward to the day, everything that comes with living a wealth consciousness lifestyle. So,
Yes. So, just like I have always been interested in numerology, I'm curious if you have always been interested in numbers or a little bit of history, like how you got into numerology. Maybe share a little bit of your story with us.
so as a child, I struggled academically. Like the English language did not come naturally to me. So I would find ways to use numbers and patterns to understand what I was learning. And then I would say sometime in my early 20s, I cannot give you an exact memory where I discovered numerology because I was exposed to all these modalities at a young age because my mom was into astrology, palm reading, past lives, everything woo, I like to say. So when I discovered numerology, it was like I was not surprised. It just kind of was like it was familiar but kind of foreign. I don't know how to put it, but through just learning about my numerology, I started talking about it with people like I knew it. I was like, where is this coming from? So, through studying numerology, learning about people's numbers, um, I just did it as a hobby for over 20 years. And then in March of 2020, my previous company folded, and I allowed myself to process the grief and everything that comes when you lose something that you put your heart and soul into. And I took the approach of what's next. And all of a sudden, I'm doing numerology, like readings for people, talking to people in grocery stores, coffee shops. And then one of my dear friends, Lisa Thomas, she's an energy healer. She told me a couple years before this happened that I really should consider doing numerology. But, it's like a parent, right? They're going to tell you something they see in you, but you have to come to your own awareness, your own allowing, and not resisting it. And that's kind of what happened over 2 years. So when I told her, hey, guess what? I decided to be a numerologist. And of course, that comes with the whole imposter syndrome and everything when you're early stages. She was like, yep. She just kind of nodded her head. And the next thing you know, I have a numerology business called Numerology Catalyst, because I just love the word catalyst. It's an activator, and it really allows you to create what you desire. And then through what's happened, right, with the world shutting down the last couple of years and a lot of changes happening, I came to realize that a lot of us have disconnected from ourselves. And it's really getting back to ourselves, getting back to feeling good, getting back to looking forward to, and ultimately what really matters. And for me, what really matters is for people to live an intentional, authentic life and be themselves and not who other people have told them they should or should not be. So, numerology is a tool to allow yourself to know thyself.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. So, looking at your numbers, I was like, I'm not surprised. You're a life path nine. Nines are the old wise souls. I always like to say the nines in numerology, you've kind of evolved from the one through the nine. So this is like your last reincarnation, usually speaking. And nines usually are so exhausted with reincarnating, if they come from the belief of reincarnation and past lives, that they're like, thank goodness. Like, I'm just happy. I am so exhausted and I'm so done. I'm ready to just go home. So when I was looking at your numbers, I was like, yep, you just kind of pick up on things, right? And whatever your where your gifts are, what your innate talents are. So for me, I'm like, oh, that person's this number, this person's that number, or they're in this cycle. So yeah, that's just a little backstory about where I was, where I am now, and why I love numerology.
It's so fun and it's so fascinating. And it really is a science and an art, I think.
Yeah, so numerology, I like to say, if you're not familiar with numerology, think of it as a science of numbers, a mystical science of numbers. Science was not invented by humans, even though they give credit to Pythagoras for discovering it over 2,000 years ago. It's the universal language. You see numbers, not just literally numbers, but you can see them in sacred geometry. You can see it pretty much across the board in anything and everything. So, numbers is a universal language. It's a mystical science, and it's just another tool to add to your belt. If you resonate, gravitate towards it.
My whole body lit up in chills when you said that. I had not heard an explanation of the sort. Like, of course, I personally know that the universe speaks to us in numbers. One of
Mm-hmm.
the ways, like signs and such, and numbers is a huge one. So I love you sharing that. Thank you.
Yeah, I get the most commonly asked question I receive since I become a numerologist is, what do repeating numbers mean? What does it mean when I see it here? Or what does it mean when I'm thinking or doing this? And some numerologists come from the belief that there is a one size fits all for numbers, kind of like healthcare, right? You just give somebody something. But me, I kind of see numbers as, well, it depends on your unique blueprint, because the numbers are communicating to you personally, not to everyone always, right? So for you, right, if you're born on the 22nd, 22 is a master number. It's a master builder number. So organization, no clutter, all these things like are so important to you. If you don't have a clean, organized environment, you cannot focus. It drives
100%.
you, it drives you bonkers. Like it literally triggers you. Like you're like WTF, like I can't do this.
I would have said everything that you just said, literally, no joke. I can't work in a mess.
No. And you're not meant to, because organization, order, stability, structure are really important to you, not just in your environment, but in your career, in your day-to-day life, who you surround yourself with, and because you have that master builder number on the day you're born, it really allows you to build from the ground up whatever it is you put your heart, mind, and soul into. So whenever you doubt yourself or what direction you're going in, remind yourself of your potential through your birthday number. So it keeps you grounded. It can make you feel imbalanced when you don't have the structure and stability, but you also know what works for you and what doesn't because you're very highly self-aware because of it.
You are spot on. I didn't get to tell our guests that we were going to do a little tease, but you're just kind of sprinkling in, which is so cool to understand how numbers work and to see firsthand. Liza had pulled my chart so that she could share little pieces, and it's really cool how you're sprinkling this in.
Yeah. Well, it's just, it allows you to just really better understand, confirm who you are, right? And love all parts of yourself because the 22 energy, the positive side, right, is organization, structure, stability. But what can also show up is self-limiting, self-limitations, inflexibility with yourself and with others. But because you're so self-aware, you see it and you know how to work through it and quickly shift it. While maybe in your younger years, and depending on who you're interacting with, whether it's a collaboration, right, work or partner or family, you may have noticed it caused more pent-up frustration, agitation, and as a result, you would kind of snap a lot easier. So what you've learned is instead of reacting, you pause and then you respond.
Wow. So did you know that how did you know that I had learned that rather? Like, can you see that I would have gotten that by this age? Like, why did you? Because you're right.
Right. So based on your age, you have a maturity number that kicks in your early 40s to somewhere between your early 40s, late 40s, I like to say. And your maturity number is an 8. And it's kind of like who your true self is, your ultimate goal, your encompassing mission in life. And as an 8, you really, it's 2 is a multiple of 8, right? Or 8's a multiple of 2. I'm going backwards. So, you look at not just your maturity number or your birthday number, your life path number, you look at how they influence one another. So for you as a maturity number 8, which kicks in during that age frame that I shared, you're really moving towards reevaluating yourself and what matters to you and what your truth is, while also digging really deep within. Like you've gone through a lot of periods, especially in recent years, where you're just highly introspective, don't want to talk to or see anyone, but that's what you needed so that you could come back a better version of yourself, a more self-aware person, not just for yourself, but being able to share your gifts and experiences with others.
It's so fascinating how you can see all of this in the numbers.
Yeah,
Again,
it's
spot on.
fun. And it's we're really in a point in our life. I call it the interstitial space. I don't know if I've shared this with you before. Have you heard of the liminal space? Are, yes. So liminal space, interstitial space are synonymous. I use the interstitial space because I actually wrote a book called Houses of Light, and one of the chapters is called the interstitial space. And it's exactly where we've always been, but it wasn't illuminated until a couple years ago. So it's the no longer and not yet. It's where we're being asked to take a really good look at ourselves, right? What really matters? How are we feeling? What do we want to create for our lives and everyone moving forward? But for you, you've been in that interstitial space longer than most people have even realized. It's kind of like who you are. You're in the interstitial space. You do well, you thrive in the gray area. Not a lot of people do. A lot of people sink, escape, numb themselves. But for you, you've learned to kind of transform, transmute, that, like as Brené Brown says, right? The magic is in the mess. So it's who you are. And because you're a life path 9, you're the old wise soul. So you're going to have a lot of rinse and repeat experiences, a lot of experiences that are really forcing you to let go, to surrender, to shed. It's like so many losses, metaphorically and literally, right? Like losses of people, but also losses of belief, losses of mindset, like all these other things that kind of compound from the encompassing transformation and loss. So for you, 9s are probably, I would say, one of the hardest life lessons, but they have such a beautiful gift to share. 9s are there. What's interesting in your chart in particular, Lisa, is because you have the maturity 8 and you also have a destiny 8, which is compatible with your life path 9, you're very motivated by financial sovereignty, but you're also just as much driven by being of service to others without money being the core focus. So you have this duality going on where you're like, I want to be of service and not focus on the money. But I also know, and I'm driven by money because I know that's going to give me the freedom, the flexibility, the sovereignty that I desire. So it's like this interesting combination of who you are. And because you're in a personal year 5, because we have personal year cycles in numerology, which have specific lessons and themes every calendar year, you're in a 5-year, which has to do with liberation, movement, change. Like you're really feeling this desire, like, I want to be free. I want to experience. I want to travel. I want to tap into my 5 senses. Like you're desiring on such a deep level that it's like you're bursting. It's like a bursting energy.
Wow. Yes, all of everything you just said is 100% accurate.
Yeah. So every year we have different cycles, and knowing the cycle you're in is just as important as knowing your numbers, because a cycle is going to influence your numbers just like your numbers are going to influence your cycle. You don't have any 5s in your core numbers. The core numbers are your life path number, which is your soul's journey in lifetime. Your birthday number is your secondary lesson and gift, which is 22. Your destiny number is how you go about achieving your life path in this lifetime. Okay. So your 8 destiny number is how you go about achieving your 9 old wise soul journey in this lifetime. Okay. And then to just add a little, right? Because people are probably going to go, oh my gosh, that's so much information. I just want to touch on this briefly. So you have a soul urge number, which is, some people may be familiar with numerology. The other word numerologists refer to soul urge as your heart desire. So for you, you have a 1. So you want to be number 1 at everything you do. Now, here's the thing, and you can say yes or no to this. It's not that you're competitive with other people, but you strive to be number 1 and really good at what you do. You want to know it inside and out, so much so that you will go the extra mile to make sure that you do it well. And that goes really well with your birthday 22, because 22 is all about the foundations, the structure, the stability, making sure your T's are crossed, your I's are dotted, every little thing has to be done. If not, you don't sleep well at night. So we'll add that. Like you literally need to make sure it's done, or you can't go to sleep, which can be a really good trait because you get stuff done, because a lot of people aren't good at completing things. But what can happen is it can consume you. So you need to, if you haven't found ways to really cope with that, tend to that, that's something to keep in mind. But I wouldn't be surprised if you've worked on that a lot. And no, there is always tomorrow. It is not urgent. It's not life or death. It's okay.
hilarious here what you're sharing, because I actually didn't sleep the other night because I hadn't prepared well enough for an interview that I was going to be on. I couldn't sleep, even though I knew I could do it in the morning. I do better when it's done before bed, and you know what I mean? Like, that is absolutely right. And I would say I'm competitive with myself almost.
Mm-hmm. Yep. But here's what happens is knowing other people's numbers if there's other people involved, because they may, based on their numbers, perceive you as being competitive with them when really it's you being competitive with yourself. So that's why knowing not just your numbers, but other people's numbers allows you to have, know how to work and communicate with one another. So sometimes you might go, why is this person like being very judgy or very competitive with me? It's because of their perception, their numbers, and the way you're projecting yourself to them, right? It's all about our own perceptions, our own experiences. So if you see that happening, knowing their numbers will really help so you know how to face it and approach it while still remaining true to yourself.
Oh, that's smart. So do you have people typically, or do families or couples or businesses perhaps do a read on
Mm-hmm.
all the members? You
Yeah,
do that?
so I can do it with people who are in a partnership, romantic, dating, married, whatever. I can do it in a business. Like if there's a team of, let's say, 10 people, we can say, okay, these are these people's strengths. These are their weaknesses. This is where they'll thrive. This is where they might be challenged. Knowing how to communicate, right? Because communication is number one, right? Especially, I mean, in everything, but especially in businesses and teams. And then you can also look at family dynamics, right? And if you see a certain number of the same numbers, right? For instance, like let's say someone else had a 9, 22, and 8 in their chart. That means you have a karmic soul contract with them. So you're really here to learn and grow and heal together and individually. So seeing other people's numbers is just as important, because then you can go, okay, this number is about healing family wounds. This number is about addictions. This number is about better managing your finances, having a healthier relationship with money. So knowing what the lessons are individually and with others, whether it's personal, family, business, will give you the tools, the insight. There's that saying, compassion is born from understanding. And if we don't understand, how can we be more compassionate? How can we be more loving and kind with one another? So that's why I love numerology so much, and why I really just say it's not the end all be all. It's not like I'm the one who created it. I'm just the messenger. I'm sharing my wealth of knowledge for you to create wealth and abundance and sovereignty in your life.
And what a great tool. I absolutely love this. I mean, it's clear how much you've been able to gather about me that was spot on.
Yeah, and we don't know each other that well. I know we
No.
connected, like I just looked at your numbers and I just went, okay. It's kind of like if you're an astrologer, right? The sun, the moon, the rising, everything that goes with that. I'm not an astrologer, so I'm not going to get into that. But just like any other modality, Enneagram, human design, it's just another tool to to apply. The other part for me is not just taking it, right, and going, ooh, we had a great hour session workshop together, but being able to apply it and maintain it in your life. That's really my intention behind numerology, is to really create that wealth, to maintain that wealth, to apply that wealth in your life, and also kind of paying it forward, the ripple effect, right? Because when we're good, it ripples out to the collective. If we're not good, right, the same happens. So, and we're at a very pivotal time right now collectively. So I say focus on you, go inward, for all of us. This isn't just you, just all of us. Really take a time out, even though we had a lot of time to ourselves the last couple of years. It feels to me like a lot of people were deflecting, projecting, blaming, instead of really allowing themselves to slow down and go inward.
Right. There's definitely been a gift of this time period. I don't think anything is by mistake. There are opportunities in all of this. And it's very clear to me that this has been a period on planet Earth that we are having a great awakening. And it really is about, yes, going inside and cleaning out our closets.
If you're not sure what to do, I always say pause and go inward.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
I have a question for you about numerology in general. I feel like I'm seeing it more. Is it having a resurgence, or are people is numerology being more well received or out there more? Talk to me.
So I'm starting to see just more people curious and open to it, right? More people are like the people I've been working with more men recently, which I love, healing the masculine, healing the feminine, no gender exclusion here, but just I'm really, really happy to see more men who are open and vulnerable and really want to learn about themselves, because we do live, whether you agree with this or not, in a patriarchal society. So if we can heal the masculine, heal the feminine, the yin, the yang, the light, the dark, all of that, that's where love can come through. That's where kindness and compassion and unity and everything that we really desire on a deep level, whether or not we realize it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. And I'm with you. It is beautiful to see men waking up. And, and I think you mentioned that because it's more common, or it has been more common, that women are doing the work, or seeking these sorts of tools. So it is
Mhm.
nice that we're now seeing men doing that, because we do need our brothers and our fathers and our lovers that are men to be holding it down and lighting it up with us. This is a together thing. It's not one or the other.
No, and vulnerability in general is sexy. Vulnerability,
100%.
yeah, vulnerability is our strength. You don't always have to be on, you don't always have to be achieving the next mark in life. It's okay to just be. And it's okay to be sad and happy at the same time. That's kind of the interstitial space right now, where we are experiencing dualities, polarity, whatever you want to refer to it as. There's a lot of grief, global grief going on right now, a lot of PTSD individually and collectively. So, really allowing ourselves to process it, because if we don't, where does it go? If it's not going to show up inside, it's going to come out some way, whether it's in our mental, physical health, however it shows, manifests for us. So it's really important that we tend to ourselves, especially right now.
Thank you for bringing that in. I think it is really important, and that we can have two opposing truths at the same time, the same kind of idea. You can have these very opposing feelings, because I think people do feel guilty about feeling happy or enjoying sometimes when there is so much pain or grief. But mourning is very important, but it's also equally important to focus on the beautiful things too, and to allow yourself to feel good, because when we're not feeling good, we're not able to then help anyone.
Right. And that's really what wealth is to me, is feeling good. Because from feeling good, that's how everything else can manifest. That's how we really, like you're smiling right now. That's wealth, right? Joy, tapping into what lights us up, not doing something because we have to do it, but because we want to do it. Like if you're waking up in the morning and you're dreading the day and you're not looking forward to it, that's a good indicator to really just take a look at that. Wealth is not just money. Money comes from feeling good. Happiness comes from feeling good. Health comes from feeling good, everything that wealth encompasses. So, I firsthand experienced what it's like not to feel good and be in a constant cortisol, elevated stress the last couple of years. So it was a good experience for me about getting back to what really matters. And for me, what really matters is feeling good, abundance, prosperity, sovereignty, everything that comes with that. Sovereignty is an inward journey, it's not external. We're not going to get into that conversation, but you know where I'm going with this.
That's one of my favorite words, sovereignty. It's such a good word.
Well, I'd be curious to look up the numeric vibration, because some people really love that word, other people repel, and words have numeric vibration. So knowing if it lines up with your numbers, like the word love is a 9 in numerology, and you're a life path 9. So It's nine is the we, nine is the compassionate humanitarian. Nine does not see anyone else as any different than themselves, no matter what their personal beliefs are or what they look like.
I just love that. That just made me so happy. That felt so good to hear that. I always say my favorite words are the L word and the F word.
Wow. Yeah, and money, that's another one that's it's a triple nine vibration. So we look at three aspects in the word money. And what's interesting is knowing where money shows up in your chart, if it does at all. If you don't have the number nine or the number 2 and 7, because it actually adds up to a 27, which is a 9, 2 plus 7, that's just as important to know. Because then you can really look at, okay, how can I shift this? How can I use money and work with it instead of work against it?
Oh, that's so fascinating. So it might be like in our numbers or in our chart, so to speak, why somebody might have struggles or opposition to love or money.
Right. And then health, right? That's another big one because health and money are connected. I mean, everything's connected, but especially money and health. So you can really look at those on a deeper level. Cancer has an 8 vibration. So if you have an 8 in your chart or you're lacking an 8, that's something to look at. So you can look at different ailments also and just see how they line up with your numbers or the cycle you're in.
Wow, this is so freaking cool.
And also, a project I did was called Our Death is No Coincidence. So, looking at when someone passes, they use, everybody, I come from the belief people choose when they're going to come into this world and when they're going to leave. So, just like looking at those numbers, ultimately to provide comfort in like they chose this time no matter how tragic it was.
To provide comfort for their loved ones. Oh, I love that. Yeah, I actually am a firm believer of what you just shared. Like, even though I know it would be horrific and tragic if, I were to lose a family member, say, in a tsunami or a hurricane or earthquake or plane crash, I always know that if they were to be there at that time involved, that their soul made that agreement. I 100% believe that.
Mhm. Yeah. Like my father passed away um, during lockdowns, and that was tragic. So it's like, what was the lesson for that for him and for us? Because the other thing is, we have our individual lessons, but whoever we're connected to in our inner circle, we have lessons with them as well with our own numbers and their numbers.
Of course.
Yeah. So there's a lot that you can use with numerology, but ultimately it's to better understand yourself, to better understand others, and to create a wealthy life.
I love it. Is there a tip that you would share for our listeners who are a little bit curious or, wanting a little bit more information or
I say start by looking at your childhood, following your curiosity, also paying attention to what you procrastinate on or avoid, because those are all clues about what you naturally gravitate to, what you're naturally good at, what your gifts are, and also what your lessons are. And if you're not sure, I'm where I do one-on-one sessions. I offer numerology charts. I do relationship compatibility charts. And I also am teaching a numerology 101 workshop for 6 weeks where you get to know your 5 main numbers in your chart, but not just learning them, seeing how they influence one another so that you can see your greatest potential and create, apply and maintain the life that you desire.
I love it. That is super fascinating. So we will have all of your contact information in the show notes for our listeners. It has been super fascinating, informative, fun, and an absolute gift to have you on here. Thank you so much for sharing your gifts and your magic with me and the Sacred Beauty Lifestyle podcast listeners.
Thank you so much, Lisa.
I'm Liza Eddy, your host of the Sacred Beauty Lifestyle podcast, which is now being shared here on YouTube. I hope this episode brought you insights and inspiration to radiate and shine with confidence. Remember to subscribe so you receive new episodes hot off the press right when they are released. And follow me on Instagram for more juicy tips at I am Liza Eddy. Also, ladies and gentlemen, When you subscribe, like, and share these episodes, it helps me to get seen by more people. And that means a lot to me because I am committed to reaching millions of women across the globe and waking them up to the sacred beauty lifestyle, owning their true power and beauty, both inside and out. Now, more than ever, we need more women shining instead of hiding. When we band together, we are unstoppable. This is how we change the world, together. Remember the sacred beauty lifestyle and get on out there and shine. The world needs your light.